come up to me and tell me what he thought. If there was something he thought I could do better, he'd tell me, and I'd do it over again. But I could tell by the look on his face when I'd aced it. I couldn't have done those solos without him. When it came to my singing, I trusted him. Working on television was so completely different from what I knew. Each week, we had new guests, new songs to perform, new scripts to learn. When it was the two of us, each week, we had new guests, new songs to perform, new scripts to learn. When it was the two of us on stage, reincarnation, I asked him one night. When he nodded, I paused for a couple of seconds and then hit him with, "Then come back taller." Jokes about his height always got the best laughs. When we'd started with the summer show, it was hard for Chris and Alan, our producers, to get guests. But the moment we went into prime time and our ratings went sky high, people started begging to get on. We couldn't beat them away with a stick. Our show ultimately brought on huge names like Truman Capote, Muhammad Ali, Elton John, Tina Turner, Twiggy, Red Fox, Chris Christopherson, Hugh Hefner, Bob Hope, Gene Stapleton, the Jackson 5, and Billie Jean King, among many others. A number of our guests were serious actors and musicians who wanted a chance to goof around, put on tights, and wear kooky costumes. It felt amazing to invite Tony Curtis and our old friend Glenn Campbell to goof around with us, as well as the comedian Liz Diller, who played the harpsichord and was funny and serious all at once as she tried to get us to crack up as the princess who couldn't smile. We also had Charlie's Angels actress Farrah Fawcett, who became a friend. Years later, when Farrah was sick, she would ask if she could spend her last days in my home because she wanted to see the ocean. Ryan denied her, saying, if she wants to see the ocean, she could stay at my house. Carol Burnett came to the show several times, and it was always a pistol. We were destined to be friends from the beginning. We're two Tauruses. Come on. That dame could make me laugh with just a look, which, of course, is no surprise given her comic genius. Chastity worshipped her and had seen her so often on TV that she thought of her as famous, which wasn't how she thought of me at all. Once we wrapped each night, my life was very routine. I would come home, go upstairs to look at the baby, take off my eyelashes, brush my hair, put it in a ponytail, wash my face, brush my teeth, then watch TV and go to sleep. That was it. I didn't go anywhere, and the work was hard on me. I had an especially demanding schedule because we had more male guests than female guests, and they often wanted to do a segment with me instead of Sonny, especially if it was a male singer who wanted a duet.
Oh my God.
I got even busier when Sonny decided that in addition to preparing and filming a show each week, we should also get back into recording new music and out on the road. We have to make the most of the chance, Cher, he insisted, stopping just short of repeating what was becoming his mantra. This is our time. I knew from the look on his face that it wasn't a suggestion, but a statement of what we were doing. And who was I to argue with the man who kept his promise? To capitalize on our success, he sent me to work on a new album for Cap Records with producer Thomas Snuff Garrett. Because of the pressing television schedule, I was given 1 week to finish the record. The good news was that I immediately loved Snuffy, who was a natural comic and great at his job. Never musically trained, he started as a disc jockey in Texas, but had such an ear for a hit record that he was a millionaire by the time he was 30. It was the first time Sonny didn't get involved because he was so busy putting together our new live show for our concert tour. I wanted to take more time. There was none, and Snuffy was a get-it-done kind of guy anyway. So I'd go into the studio and put the vocal down a couple of times, maybe listen to it and do it a couple more times, but that was it. I'd always know the songs perfectly before showing up because I knew I wasn't going to get any real time to sing. And back then, you couldn't clean up a vocal like you can today. Entitled Cher, with the accent I'd adopted when I was 11 and practicing my autograph to make me seem chic. My 7th album's cover photo was a black and white close-up by Richard Avedon depicting me pensive with wet hair combed down over my face. I fought with everybody for that album cover. I was the only one who seemed to like it. The single the record company released was Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, and it became my first ever top 10 hit as a solo artist, and even earned my first Grammy nomination. The sad truth is that although it was the first time I felt I'd been recognized by my peers, and without Sonny's name appearing anywhere, we were working so hard, I honestly don't even remember how it felt. When you're doing an album, and a TV show, and costume fittings, and photo shoots, and concerts, and being a mom, it all becomes a big blur. That song has never been one of my favorites because I don't really like story songs much. Tunes like Ode to Billy Joe by Bobby Gentry, even though that was also a huge hit. Gypsies has that same kind of vibe, as did the other contenders that year. Janis Joplin's Me and Bobby McGee, released after her tragic death at the age of 27 from a heroin overdose. Joan Baez's The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. I loved that one. It's an amazing song. And Carly Simon's That's the Way I've Always Heard It Should Be. In the end, Carole King won the award for her brilliant song Tapestry. As Snuff Garrett liked to remind me, though, we weren't making music just for me. I never got the opportunity to pick my own songs back then. They were always chosen for me by Snuffy, Sonny, or whoever was producing. Always a man. Gypsies became so successful that the album was reissued with a new cover, renamed to match the single, and went gold. I had to hand it to Sonny. He pushed me, but he sure knew what he was doing when he sent me back to the studio. I couldn't argue with a hit. With something like 50 concerts under our belts, by the end of that year, it took an enormous amount of time and effort to juggle performing, our TV show, and our private life. One of them had to take a hit. Sonny would always remind me, we thought we were solid money-wise last time, but we weren't. Sonny packed our schedules so tight, not giving me enough time to catch my breath. Some weeks he arranged with production to shoot 2 episodes in 3 days so we could go straight on the road and get in 9 days of touring. This was a bargain for the producers because it saved them money, but it meant double the number of costumes, fittings, dance routines, and last-minute script changes for everybody who worked on the show. That hectic schedule could only happen about once a month. Our dear friend George Schlatter, a creator of Laugh-In, once said, if Sonny and Cher were driving into Hollywood from the Valley, Son would take a gig on Mulholland to break up the trip. George was making a joke, but it was kidding on the square.
Chapter 16. I Will Always Love You. One day we arrived for the read-through and the script was so all over the place that it had to be rewritten. Realizing we had a moment of freedom, Rhett and I turned to each other like, let's get out of here while we can, and made a beeline for the door. I was still in my fishnet tights and leotard, but rammed on my cowboy hat, made by Bob, and we jumped into my turquoise Ferrari. I'm in love with Ferraris. My favorite was my Dino. If it was a guy, I would have married it and we'd still be together. Rhett and I drove to Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills, where I saw a pair of beautiful black leather Charles Jourdan boots and bought them on the spot. As we wandered through the store, we suddenly found ourselves in this amazing round room that was all mirrored and filled with thousands of perfume bottles. I picked one up and sprayed it in the air and told Rhett, Oh God, I love this. Sonny doesn't want me to wear perfume, but maybe I could just wear it for the show. Rhett nodded his head. Then I became aware that something was going on in this room besides me finding a perfume. I looked up to see a crowd of women had started to gather around us, pointing and whispering. When they didn't look away, I asked Rhett, "What are they looking at?" He laughed and said, "Well, you, of course. You're on television now, honey. Everyone knows who you are." I was so busy working, I hadn't been out in the real world to see that I was famous again, but this time in 4K. 4K provided by Slash Electric Alexander Edwards. Sonny and I had never been wealthier or more in demand. The IRS had been paid off, and we now had fame, money, and respect. This was the fantasy we always imagined, although we never did walk into that Cadillac dealership with a brown paper bag full of cash. I was realizing that television fame was different than what we'd had from our records and concerts. Neither of us could believe it. I was finally able to wear the kind of beautiful beaded gowns I'd always dreamed of. Bob made one covered in shimmering red beads and an open stomach that just killed me. He and Rhett still sometimes went on costume raids at Carol Burnett's for dancers, but for me and the guest stars, they were always able to create whatever they wanted with a budget that grew to $5,000 per dress. Bob always said my size 6 body was like a coat hanger. He could hang anything on it and it would look great. Bless him. At 25 years old and 108 pounds, I was finally getting some definition, especially once we started to do dance routines for our production numbers. Also, my body type had finally come into vogue. Astonishingly, I was named one of the 10 best dressed women in America, along with the fashion designer Carolina Herrera and Liza Minnelli. It felt surreal. Nobody really believed it had seen me in the 60s. Sonny, of course, made fun of my nomination in our next show and teased me mercilessly, claiming that my ass-kicking new outfits had only accentuated my size 38 nose. Bob Mackey and his team knew exactly how to show off my figure, although they had to turn around each new costume within a couple of days every single week. Not one of his costumes allowed for underwear, so I lost count of the hours I stood naked in front of him and his staff at the studio on Melrose Avenue as they studied me from every angle and worked out the best way to style me. Elizabeth Courtney, the celebrated dressmaker who fitted dresses for Marlene Dietrich and Marilyn Monroe, among others, oversaw everything. People would close in on me to tug at this and pull on that, or I'd have to whip the dress off and flip it around. Thank God we were all friends and most of the guys were gay, so I never felt embarrassed. Because Sonny and I were married, we were almost free of censorship on the show and could get away with much more innuendo than if we'd been single, which I found out later when I had my own show and always had 2 censors on my set. But Sonny and I were supposed to adhere to a law that had been passed 20 years prior, the Code of Practices for Television Broadcasters, which outlined how to dress within the bounds of decency. Bob and I felt the whole idea was insane in an age where women were wearing their tits up to their shoulders. I mean, you had Raquel Welch, Marilyn Monroe, Barbara Eden, Jane Mansfield. Bob cut everything just on the edge of getting canceled. I don't know how we got away with it. He'd make cutaway backs and open sides showing off my long torso, but often with little strips of fabric to cover up the bending parts. It was a pain in the ass. Well, midriff. Of course, those strips would flap to one side as I moved, or Bob would abandon them altogether on occasion to see if anyone died of shock. And when they didn't, he exposed more and more of me, which I didn't mind at all. It was fun. I'd always dressed in pants, and this was the first time people saw me as feminine or sexy. Our scripts also pushed the envelope and were on the razor's edge of risque. People loved it. To remind our audience of the wholesomeness of Sonny and Cher, we started bringing on the president of our fan club for our closing song. I got you, babe. Dressed in a mini version of our outfit,
Okay, so obviously we're gonna rinse the rice thrice before we use it. That's just how we roll. That's just how we do. We want the rice water to be clear and clean when we're making the rice. However, since we're very multicultural, multi-dimensional, multi-galactic people, multiverse people, we like to use everything appropriately and fully, right? So rather than just tossing the water that we're rinsing the rice with here, we're actually gonna save it. Bonus points if anyone can tell me what rice water is good for. You think about that while I get the second rinse started. Okay, does anyone have any ideas what we use the rice water for? I am so curious. Comment down below and tell me if you have any ideas. This is your last chance before I get the third rinse going. Okay, third rinse is here. So basically, the rice water is good for a lot of different things. But the number one thing that we're using the fermented rice water for is basically our baby hairs. Okay, fermented rice water is basically one of the top 3 reasons why Japanese people have beautiful long hair. A Japanese diet will literally save your life, so will a Mediterranean diet, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Basically, the first time I used rice water, do you see this? Like, my hairline has never looked so full. My scalp has never been so happy. And you know, it's New England, it's winter, so it's like brutal snow, ice, and wind, bitterly cold outside. I'm washing my hair like all the time. And when you do that, it can strip your hair of its natural oils. So we want to make sure that we're feeding our scalp and feeding our hair, right? Holistic beauty talks about beauty starting from the inside. This means that we have to nourish ourselves spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. This means that we don't have to add a lot of chemicals to everything necessarily, but that we can use what we have fully and completely, okay? So that's kind of what holistic means. It means entirely, the whole system. So basically, this rice water is gonna sit for 2 or 3 days, and then it'll be ready for me to wash my hair with. I have been debating, this is what it looks like when it's ready. I do have to warn you, for those of you that are very smell sensitive, fermented foods naturally have a very strong aroma. So some people find the smell like totally offensive, and that's fine. Not me though. I just roll with it. So basically, I have been actually considering whether or not to use that fermented rice water on my eyelashes, because I feel like if it can work for hair, then what's to say it wouldn't make my eyelashes super thick and luxurious? And who doesn't want naturally thicker, luxurious eyelashes? So I think I'll try that and report back to you, because honestly, making my eyelashes super thick is something that I'm pretty obsessed with naturally. I've heard castor oil can work, but when you're putting oil on your eyes, you have to just be very mindful. I feel like fermented rice water is simply another option that might be maybe feasible. I don't know. Stay hydrated. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, you know, I go to the makeup stores, I go online, whatever, and I see all of these like bars of like fermented rice milk for your hair. And I'm like, seriously, guys? Like, seriously, just like slow down. That's how you make it yourself. And then you can just like leave it to sit in your bathroom in an unobtrusive place for like 2 or 3 days. And you can literally just use it on your hair, and then you can grow back your baby hairs like me. I don't know, try it. It's definitely been working for me, and I definitely love it. And yeah, That's what I have to say about that. So I used to just like make my rice completely plain, but my brother was like, I hate the way you make rice, and it was like so heartbreaking and offensive to me. So I was like, fine, I'll put just like a little bit of oil and salt in it, and then I won't have to season it as much when I'm ready to eat it anyways. So basically, that's what I'm doing right now. My thingy's stuck. I'm just like, hello. My thingy's stuck. I'm just like, hello. A little more salt in that. Salt is so important for your body. It's how your body makes and sustains blood. So if anyone's telling you don't eat salt, they're wrong. Alrighty, so the rice is going. Basically what we're gonna do is just like let the rice water come to a complete boil. Let it stay there for like between 3 and 5 minutes. And then just turn that all the way down to low to simmer for like 20 minutes. And then bada boom, bada bing, the rice is ready. That's what is gonna be the staple for my week. Rice with add-ons. Rice and soup, rice and soup, rice and soup. You know, when it's really cold outside, soup and tea are like your best friends. And you definitely want to have those ingredients handy, especially if you like have work, school, things going on, because then you can just add to that without having to like cook full meals all the time, 3 times a day, all the time, and burn yourself out like I almost did last month. That's not what you want to do. Trust me on that one. So anyways, today I'm also making, to go with the rice, I already have some rice, so I'm just gonna like heat that up and eat that for dinner. But that's from yesterday. Just like wash that. Okay. So basically I made some like really awesome burritos yesterday, and they were a super smash hit. And so I'm gonna make all this beef at once, and then I'm gonna just be able to eat those tacos for the next like 2 days, probably. All meals, aside from what I have for soup. And then the kiddo's gonna have lunch and breakfast at school, but maybe some breakfast sandwiches for breakfast while at home. And if grandma gets bacon tomorrow, and I will have soup and this. And then when I'm at work, I'll just like drink water and just like meditate, honestly. And just enjoy like full dinners, but I'll have to have really full breakfasts as well. Because I've been just like walking, working, doing all this stuff, and not eating properly. And then I saw a meme that tried to drag my edges, except they had just grown back from the rice water I made. And the meme was like, it's really one thing that's impressive, darling, how you're dehydrated, sleep deprived, and malnourished all at once. And I was like, how can I let a meme drag me so thoroughly? I cannot. So I made a vow to switch up this week. So this week is different. This is the week of Christmas. It is the last week and a half-ish.
Stop yelling.
Excuse me?
Stop yelling.
I'm sorry. Am I bothering you right now?
Now you're screaming. Cut it out.
Well, can you shut your door?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, as I was saying, it's the last week and a half of the year. So I am not ending the year malnourished, sleep deprived, and dehydrated. I'm ending the year well-nourished, healthy, strong, well-rested, stable, and completely hydrated. So that's part of why we're cooking right now. The water's almost boiling. I'm gonna grab the peppers. Yeah, it's gonna be a good week. It's gonna be a great Christmas. All right, we are also cooking again with the vegetable oil. I used to be like so anti-vegetable oil, you wouldn't believe it. I used to never have vegetable oil, but then I was like, you know, I'll just change my life here. Oh, co-host, cute, heart, love. Oh, but the theme is restricted. So maybe they're smoking, which good for them. but I think we're not going to join that one because we are going to upload this live later. Thank you for the invite, though. Maybe next time. Looking for I'm looking for a man in finance. Just kidding. Oh, 2025 countdown recap. It's really happening, y'all. We really got through this year. Oh, what were some of the most memorable moments of this year? I mean, the G5 Man in G6 Man in Finance remix definitely was a big one for me. I was playing the hell out of that song. Was that even this year or was that last year? I really need to take a moment and reflect on this year because a week and a half left of 2025. Alrighty. There we go. Yes, yes, yes. Now I'm gonna have that song in my head all week long. There was like a really funny remix of that song too. I don't remember it though. Yeah, so I don't know. Top memorable viral moments of 2025. I literally, just my brain is not moving in that direction. I literally couldn't even tell you. Oh! I literally, just my brain is not moving in that direction. I literally couldn't even tell you. Oh, Labubu. I can proudly say I don't think I've ever seen a Labubu in person. I don't know why that's something to be proud of. It's really not, honestly. Recession indicator, Labubus. But let me stop while I'm ahead. Well, for my son, Sprunkies were a big one this year. Sprunkies. I mean, we love music making, so that's no surprise. Sprunkies. Okay, top YouTubers that me and my son mess with in 2025. Definitely Sprunkies, Lankybox, Ohms Crew, Adley, obviously. A is for Adley and G is for gaming. Two of the family's channels. Johnny Crew, recent addition. Michael's joining officially Reading Rainbow and starting Reading Rainbow. Top notch, no complaints. Reluctant continued subscribers of books. My son is annoyed at books because we live in the internet era. But personally, I think books is one of the greatest inventions since the Libby app. Books of top 3 family channel that I recommend, to be perfectly honest with you. I love books. Who else? I mean, the Reading Rainbow thing is huge, you know? To see Michael's journey of just like going someone who was like suicidal ideation, you know, struggling with mental health, publicly accepting and acknowledging all that, just continuing to talk about libraries being a welcoming space for literally everyone, and then going forward and getting this deal with like PBS and becoming like the face of Reading Rainbow. It's just so inspiring. It really just so motivating, and for me, just like memorable and profound. So really fuck with that. I listened to a lot more podcasts, I feel like, in 2024 than in 2025. I think 2026, maybe I'll listen to some more again. But I have been doing a lot more reading 2025. I feel like 2022 and 2023, but I have been doing a lot more reading 2025. I feel like 2022 and 2023, it really makes a difference for me. Let's see. Started the year strong with Paris Hilton's memoir, which is still stuck in my craw. That was literally one of the most powerful things I've ever read in my life. Um, I read that via audiobook. So she was actually narrating her own life story, which is usually more powerful to me. And to me, it was more powerful for me. And as I was listening to it, I was just like, I'm so glad I'm listening to this book. It was a really good way to start the year. Oh, the rice is ready to go down to simmer. I need one of those. I'm freaking sorry. Where's my black pepper? I literally have no idea. Okay. Yeah. So like, you know, when I was young, ADHD wasn't something that like was really commonly discussed. So it was kind of treated like the worst thing ever. And then stars like Adam Levine really opened up. Like I remember specifically Adam Levine because he did like a big campaign about like coming out as ADHD. And it really, I feel like reduced a lot of stigma for a lot of people. But before that, it was like really taboo to say and stuff. And Paris Hilton had ADHD, but like was dyslexic, but was not supported in that. So basically, her family sent her to one of those like scared straight camps that they used to send kids to all the time. Exactly. And like, it was just like a work camp. And they just like treated those kids like just terrible. And it was so devastating and heartbreaking to hear her testimony. And so motivating too, because the thing is, you never know what another person's going through unless they tell you. And sometimes even then you have no idea. So to hear her story about how her family basically cut her off, she had no money and she had to just go through all of these struggles, I was really just like, wow. Like I cannot believe, like I would have never known that had I not read this book, you know? So when I started the year, I like followed her on social media and her foundation, which she actually, we're out of sauce, I gotta get more sauce. She actually went to Congress to pass legislation to stop basically ABUSING children and putting them in like these situations for having like, you know, learning disabilities. And she like shut down like a lot of these camps. Well, a lot of these camps like have already been shut down and stuff like that. But basically a lot of them like, kind of tried to get away from facing justice for what they did to kids all those years. And so her bills like really shone a light on like what they did and like really tried to seek like support for, you know, these adults living with like PTSD and stuff like that from what they experienced from these traumatic events. For instance, like some kids actually DIED at those camps from like malnutrition and overwork and stuff like that. And for some of the families, they never got not only justice, but even answers. So it was so profound to read those stories. Yeah, so I thought that was so cool to see another side of her because like she's kind of like portrayed as somebody who's like pretty vapid or shallow, but she's actually someone who's endured really more than anyone should ever endure, especially as a child, and just survived it and come out on the other side. So thank you, Paris Hilton, for writing down your memoirs. It really changed my life for the better. And I started the year just really feeling like memoir-ish. So I also read Shonda Rhimes' The Year of Yes. And for me, just seeing like how somebody so famous and rich and popular can still have like insecurity about speaking in front of a crowd or something. It was really mind-blowing to me because she gave the commencement address at, where is it? Somewhere here in Massachusetts, actually. Not Emerson College, surely. Not Boston University. And if not no, it was Massachusetts. Oh, was it Amherst? Oh, did she literally go to Amherst College? Anyway, here in Massachusetts is where she delivered like the address. And it was so cool because like up till like almost the last moment, she was like, I was even gonna fly out Ellen Pompeo and have her do this, you know, just like seeing how these things are just human, feeling insecure, feeling unsure about yourself, no matter what stage of like recognition you get or wealth or something, it made me feel more human and it put me more in touch with just like myself. Ouch. And I was just like, hell yeah. It was also really moving to me as somebody who writes sometimes to just see how she talked about her relationship to those fictional characters. Like, she spoke about, like, I really miss Christina Yang. She's like, I don't miss Sandra Oh, like, I can call her whenever I want. But, like, the fictional character of Christina Yang became, like, America's best friend, not just a best friend to, like, Meredith Grey. I miss seeing her. I miss her advice. I miss my person. And I was just, like, so profoundly moved by seeing her perspective as, like, a writer. Not just, like, a producer and, like, a wealthy person, but, like, the mind of a writer. I was like, oh, I can relate to this. And it pushed me to later in the year read, just recently, what I'm talking about when I talk about Running by Haruki Murakami, who's obviously one IQ 84, obviously changed my life when I did read it, as it changes everyone's life. And then put me on this very winding path that led me right back to him here in 2025, the year of the snake, thinking about another way to see the world as a writer and talking about how being an author, a novelist, someone who writes a lot, as a physical process, it's kind of a imbalanced physical process and you need to have a way to balance that out. So his running marathons every year is something that he's been doing for years, but just kind of like is so like low-key about. And not even low-key or not even nonchalant, but it's just like a part of his life. And then seeing like the training that he went through to run triathlons, as he's not naturally an extraordinary swimmer. It motivated me so much for the first cold days of the year. And when I was getting up in the dark of the day, before my shower, just like straight away play Haruki Murakami's book and listen to him telling his story. I was like, I can do this, I can do this. It made me feel inspired about people who run marathons and about just the physical activity that I do. And it just made me feel also like profoundly moved and seen and inspired again, also as a writer. Then I read some more novels, and the two novels that I had to take out and how do you call that? Instead of renew. The two novels that I had to renew like more than 3 times this year were The Women by Kristen Hanna and Incredibly Bright Things by Susan Sonthenberg. And I don't know why, maybe there was something there emotionally that was just like stuck for me that I was able to move through. But they were really beautiful books. So the first was Remarkably Bright Creatures. And I've been reading that book for like 2 years. I took it out like 2 years ago and I think had to return it. Because one of the main characters, the like older woman who works in the aquarium, how she's just like grieving this whole time, but she's just like, I'm just going to work, I'm just doing this, and she's like all alone. It was like heavy on me. I was like, oh, like I can relate to going through experiences alone, and it made me sad. It made me feel seen also, reading this book, seeing people talk about grief. I was like, I can relate to this. You know, like her best friend basically was an octopus who she was cleaning the tank for. And it also showed how everything in this world is interconnected, and that just made me feel like this is too much, I need a moment, you know? So I took that book out 3 times, and it was so cool because her biological grandson actually ended up becoming friends with her, and neither of them knew about that because her son died in a mysterious accident in the ocean. Spoiler alert. And the octopus was from that ocean and had been at that like boat crash and had taken like her son's like ring or some souvenir in its tentacles as it was captured to go into the aquarium. And I was just like, I love this story because it made me feel seen, because we are truly are all interconnected, and we all truly also, yeah, totally. Actually, I need the cover for this thing. Did you see it? Oh, here it is. Awesome. First try. Not bad at all. A little more oil wouldn't hurt. Seeing how everything is interconnected just made me feel like really moved. And also, honestly, whenever we're talking about aquariums or SeaWorld, I feel very emotional. You know, ever since Blackfish came out, and we could all really see the reality of what like Shamu was going through, Rice is Ready, turn that right off. I was just kind of heartbroken because like you think about a creature that's meant to swim thousands of miles a day, who's literally stuck in this little ass fucking room that can just basically go in circles, and what that does for their sanity and their mental health. And it really made me angry, and it made me sad, and it made me feel like, where have we gone as a race, as a species of humanity, if we can do this to other species constantly, like for hundreds of years? And it made me have a different understanding and respect for why people become like PETA activists or whatever. Because like that shouldn't be happening, full stop. And what is that saying to us as a humanity? So it also made me think about something that I saw with this like I totally lost my train of thought. Hold on, I'll be right back. Oh, it also reminds me of something that I saw on Twitter recently. And so basically what it was like a video of a whale that was like swimming through the ocean, and the whale had like a tracking device on her. And the quote was like, "This has a lot of room for big emotions if you let it." And it was showing this whale trying to swim through a shipping route, and every time the whale swam, there would just be like a ship blocking. Like the whale would try and go this way, a ship blocking. The whale would try and go this way, a ship blocking. And it was just like, how have we as like a species of humans like allowed ourselves to become so disconnected with like the rest of the natural world, to the point that it's almost like we don't care as like a median, not individually, but like as a collective. And like, what does that say about us? That we don't care. Thank you so much for the likes. Like, seriously, that we don't care about what's happening to other species who are obviously interconnected with us as human beings. We're all connected. So, like I was saying anyway, that book made me have a lot of big feelings, which were all totally valid. And I feel like that's why I had to just return it so many times and keep retaking it out. Because I'm a very sensitive person. And for the first time in my life, I'm not ashamed of being a very sensitive person. And I actually love that about myself. So yeah, anyways. And then, what did I say the second book was? Oh, The Women. Okay, so The Women was basically about, I don't know, feminism, Vietnam War. So also about grief. So I guess this year I've come to terms a lot with like, just like healing a lot of heartbreak that I've had, like as a mom, as a woman, as a single person. Just like dealing with a lot of like issues around like past relationships and resentment, and just finally moving through that grief, which has been so amazing, because sometimes we carry grief so heavily for so long, and we just have to honor that. We can't do anything other than to honor that. So this year was the year I finally closed out some of those cycles that were trying so hard to just drown me in their power but couldn't. So I feel really, really blessed and grateful and thankful about that. But the women was also about grief. And essentially this woman, our protagonist, is just this like totally nonchalant, like regular American girl, you know, and her brother goes to Vietnam and she's like, I'm gonna be like my brother. And she like signs up, she's a nurse, and she's like, I'm gonna be like my brother and I'm gonna go to Vietnam. She also misses her brother. He was like her best friend, you know. And she's like, I'm gonna go to Vietnam, you know, like my brother. I'm gonna go to war. I'm gonna probably see my brother, support my brother, make our family proud, do something with my life, you know. And basically right after she like enlists, like straight up the same day, I think, she like comes home and she's like about to tell her family that she's like going to war. She's like all excited. And basically some soldiers like pull up to her house and they're like, your brother's not alive. He lost his life in Vietnam. No pieces of his BODY could be recovered. He's like gone, he's missing. And it's just like, holy you know, like not only is her reason gone, they can't even, there's no way to have like a funeral with the body. Like it's so sad, you know? Just like literally nothing. Devastating. So it's like, oh my God, okay. So her brother's dead. There's no way to have a funeral. And now she's set to fly thousands of miles away from home to like join the army. Her parents are not happy, by the way. To put it mildly. Like, to put it lightly. To put it honestly, they're pissed. They're like, why would you do this? Like, women don't go to war. Like, are you out of your mind? Like, they're disgusted. And honestly, it's like kind of jarring for our protagonist because like not only is she like trying to do the right thing and also now grieving the loss of her brother, but she has just straight up no support from her family. They're just like, whatever, dude, why would you sign yourself up for war? This was the dumbest possible thing you could have done. She's like, I'm trying to be a patriot. I'm trying to be a good person. They're like, this is dumb. Like, we do not care at all. Are you done with the microwave?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Like, they do not care at all. So she's like, okay, cool. So she flies out to Vietnam, and obviously it's like nothing she could have imagined. But then it's also nothing like what's happening in like the war reports. The war reports in the newspapers in America are like, we're winning, it's so patriotic. And she's in Vietnam, like, tending to children who have been impacted by napalm and tending to like young soldiers who now have like one arm and one leg, and like all these things that she's seeing are basically obviously like changing her beyond belief. So she signs up for a second tour, she like falls in love, whatever. She comes back home, she has PTSD, but there's not like a word for PTSD yet. So everyone's just like, oh, Frances, why are you drinking so much? Why are you annoying at parties? Why are you so loud? You're awkward. We don't understand you. No, there were no women in Vietnam. And like this rhetoric keeps happening again and again where people are like, there were no women in Vietnam. And she's like, I straight up just got back from Vietnam. And they're like, no, there were no women in Vietnam. Hold that thought. So yeah, it's a totally wild read for a plethora of reasons, and it's like poor Frankie, the hits keep coming, you know? My girl is like trying to do her best. Here she is in like Vietnam, literally stitching people back together. And then she comes back to America, and everyone's like, you're a lady. You can help people to the bathroom. You can't even see surgery. You can't help the surgeons. You're a lady. You're a woman. And it's just like, bro, are you kidding me? After the things this woman has seen and done and like the lives she saved, to come back and get treated in such an infantile way. And not only that, when she came back from Vietnam, you know, there's like a peace movement happening here, civil rights. So people are like spitting at her at the airport, protesting her, booing her, telling her like, you did a horrible thing, you're an occupier. And she's so confused, okay? She goes to see her like fiance's dad to throw a party for him when he comes back. Then they say that he also lost his life and no remains were recovered. I'm telling you, like, old girl is going through it. She finally finds love. She's set to get married. She's pregnant. She has a miscarriage from all the napalm and Agent Orange she was exposed to. It's just a lot. So homegirl like almost runs over a man because she's drunk driving because she can't sleep because she has PTSD from Vietnam, which she signed up for to see her brother in the first place. And they're basically like, we've had it. You know what I mean? We're putting you in a psych ward. She goes to the psych ward, and the doctor there is the man who got her pregnant, who she was going to marry before she had the miscarriage. Which is like the first blessing homegirl has seen in her life, because he gives her a big hug, and he's like, we're going to help you. We're not going to let you suffer anymore. We've got you. So basically, she goes through the like treatment process. The book is called like The Women by Kristen Hanna. She goes through this treatment process. She starts like getting some stability in her life. She's able to get her nursing license back and everything. And she's like, okay, now what am I going to do? I can go back to living with my parents. They have like a little cottage for her. And then her mom like has a stroke. So she does go back to living with her parents. But I forgot to say before that, two of the women in her unit, two of her fellow nurses, basically rescued her and they like moved her out of state to like Virginia. And they all three lived together in like kind of like a little commune for a couple months, which like saved her life. Because she was like, okay, some sense of normalcy, because these women know what I've been through because they've been through similar things. These women were on the front lines with me. They were nurses. They're not going to gaslight me and say like there were no women in Vietnam or whatever the case may be. Crazy. So these women are always kind of checking in on her. So when she leaves the mental hospital and gets her nursing license back, she goes to the cottage that her parents had her for a little bit. But then, you know, civil rights is picking up. The protests are picking up. You know, she had tried to go to the VA hospital, and all the men there were like, hey, little lady, there were no women in Vietnam. You shouldn't be here. She's like, you don't understand. This is the unit I was with. This is what I've seen. They're like, go on, little lady. This is for veterans. So, you know, it's just a hard-ass time for my girl. She is just not having an easy time with it. So basically, one of the women, the two women that were close with her, there were three of them all together, was black. And she was like, yeah, like civil rights is really happening. And so she ended up marrying a man who was like a lawyer, and they started doing things around like Veterans for Peace, anti-war protests, because they were like, Frankie, what we've gone through is not normal and we should tell our stories. Veterans have rights. So after all this time, finally Frankie's like, okay, I agree. So she goes to some of the protests and she starts to see how veterans are really treated and ignored, and she gets real mad, but like righteous mad, you know, like the good kind of mad. So basically she sells the cottage that her parents have like made for her, and with the money that she has from that house, she like buys a bunch of land, invites her two like wartime sisters to come and live with her, and basically they open up like a healing space for women who are veterans as well. So what? I've been restricted. Oh, bro, it's because your shirt's not on. Can you not walk by the camera for now?
Can you just move your camera?
Oh, yeah. Which way are you going next? 'Cause okay, I'm gonna go in front of the sink, and then like when you go to your room, can you go around the other way?
Maybe you just shouldn't be recording.
Oh,
In the
I
kitchen.
forgot you guys are just like
Or
haters.
maybe you can do it in your room instead of the kitchen where everyone frequents.
So she like sells her land. She sells her cottage and she buys some like land, and she like opens up a healing space for women who have like PTSD. And all these people come through, they're so angry and stuff, and it's just like a healing space for people to heal together, especially people who've been gaslighted, who've been like, your story never happened, you don't exist, basically. So it's really awesome. I almost burned the shit out of the meat. Turn that all the way off. Whoops. Yeah. So, it's really powerful. And then right at the end of the book, she meets, like, the first man that she fell in love with in Vietnam, he was already married to someone. So she was like, obviously nothing's gonna happen between us, but they were totally in love. And the last time she saw him, she had like put him on a medevac because he had been through a BOMB, and he had like lost a leg. He had like, his body was all torn up, broken ribs. His heart had stopped, and she was like, you are gonna work on him. And they were like, he's not gonna make it. And she put him on a helicopter, and then his heart stopped, and that's the last time she had seen him, like 16 years ago. So the last time she's like at a protest, and she like sees him, and he had this little like talisman that like right before he went on the helicopter, she put in his pocket that some little girl from Vietnam had given her after she'd saved her life. And he was like, listen, I think about you every single day. You saved my life. He like had a 9-year-old daughter. Obviously he survived. It was so beautiful. And it was like kind of like a beautiful healing closure for the story. So I was like feeling really inspired because I haven't listened to like historical fiction for like years, like a hella long time. And I was like, maybe I should be listening to more novels, not just like, you know, serious stories or like memoirs, but like I should be listening to like just novels, you know, especially even like historical novels. So after I read this book, I was like, okay, so basically I saw Kristen, I think Hannah is her name, and she's written just like so many books. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. So I was like, that's awesome. And I borrowed another one of her books to read, which I have started, and it is equally as awesome. So like those are some of the books that I've read in 2025. If you want to know more about what I'm currently reading and what I have read in 2025, you can just like find me on Goodreads. You know, my Goodreads is public. You know, I love my Goodreads. I love my like reading challenges for the year. I've been doing them for 5 years now, and it's just such a fun way to like not only keep track of like what I'm reading, but also just like keep myself reading, which is just like such a fun thing to do, truly. So yeah, I love that. But I definitely recommend those books that I did mention. And again, you can just go on my Goodreads if you want to see the rest of the books that I'm currently reading or that I have read this year, because I have read, I think, 13 books so far, and I have out 6 books right now. So I'm just like working on those books. Although I just realized as I'm saying this, we only have a week and a half left in the year. So I'm going to have to read double time if I want to get all my books finished. So I'm like, okay, awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, excuse me about that very much. I had to go post about TikTok's live incentive program, because obviously when you do that, you can tell other people about how to make money on TikTok and how supportive of an environment TikTok is and how good it is to be able to go on TikTok live. So I'm so happy that I can really help people get started on their content creator journey and just tell them like how to, you know, make money on TikTok and connect with people on TikTok and some of the benefits of being like a TikTok mom and a content creator and how much I love it. So that's what I just signed up to do. And if you're here from clicking that link, welcome, welcome. It is so good to have you. I'm so glad that you're here. You made it. You found your safe space. And I would love to know how long some of you have been making content and making TikToks. For me, I have been a content creator for about 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. And honestly, it's taken me a long time, I'm not gonna lie, to get over some of my shyness. because there were times when I wouldn't go live because I was just like so nervous. I was like, am I gonna know what to say? Like, am I gonna know whatever? And then it was like I just found my voice, you know. I was like, oh, literally, like, you can just be yourself. That's kind of part of the magic of TikTok. Like, you don't have to be something or someone that you're not. Like, you can just show up as yourself. And there's always going to be someone who's like looking for that like niche or that story or that perspective. And it's really amazing because TikTok has really changed the game in that way. And it's also become like a search engine. Like, for some people, they don't even go to like Google anymore. They go right to TikTok. So it's like, oh, okay. So whatever you're interested in, whatever you're good at, whatever, you can make TikToks about that, and that will help develop your confidence and maybe even make you some money. So like for me, I started like as like a single mom, I started making content where I was just like, there were a couple things. Number one was like, I need to be connecting with my community. I need to find my community. Number two was like cleaning TikToks. So I would like, you know, wake up, do the dishes, do my yoga, whatever, and I would just make a TikTok about it. And it really like saved my life and changed my life because I was like, first of all, finding other people who were doing similar things. And it was also like an aspect of like, you know, just like bringing more joy and fun into my life. It was like, okay, being a single mom can be a really lonely experience, or it can be something that I make it. And I choose to make it a profound experience. So even if I'm like breastfeeding by myself or with my son all day by myself, or I don't really have funds to go out and do whatever, it was like, here I can be building my own self, telling my own story, and maybe connecting with people who are similar to me. So again, it was like very powerful to me and profound. And you know, TikTok's algorithm and rules are always changing and always updating. But one thing that doesn't change is like, there's always something for everyone here. And I really love that. So after a while, I started realizing that I could make vlogs, you know? And I started finding like people who were really doing like, you know, OOTD or GRWM and like getting brand deals and like all this stuff. And I was like, why not me? So I started taking it a little more seriously, started doing some fit checks, and one thing led to another. And now it's something that I do pretty much all the time. It's a part of my business, you know, just like vlogging, sharing my life, telling my story, connecting with other moms, you know, using TikTok as an incredible tool to see other people's stories, to be inspired by other people's journeys, to potentially inspire people with me and my son's journey. So I'm really grateful for it, you know? And it's like, when you show up and when you try, the possibilities are limitless. Like, you don't know who's watching. You don't know what can happen, you know? And to me, that should be very encouraging to everyone. That should be very motivating. So anyways, one of the ways that you can make money on TikTok is obviously doing what I'm doing now, which is like doing a TikTok live. And I know that not everyone can do TikTok live, but you don't have to have 10,000 followers. As long as you're a consistent creator on TikTok, you know, TikTok is going to notice that and reward you and give you the ability to go live and sign up for like leaderboard events, prizes, stuff like that. Another way that I've seen people make so much money on TikTok is really by focusing up and doing TikTok shop. Now, you know, the cool thing about that is that like you could make a video for TikTok shop and it could just be like, there's one item that you buy and review and it could go viral and you could have 1 million followers overnight. And if even like 10% of those people bought your product, you're looking at a lot of money. So that's one of the reasons that people really love working with TikTok Shop. And I mean, I agree. I think it is a really good way to make money. The only thing is that if you're somebody that's already like on a pretty tight budget or maybe even struggling financially, then that might not be the best way for you to start, because obviously you need cash up front. You need to be like, you need to have some money to invest in the products that you're buying on TikTok Shop. But there are also ways around that. Like something that went viral a couple months ago that I made a video for were some just headbands. I mean, not headbands, some hair ties. And these hair elastics were like $2.99, I think. So they were like $3 in total. And they had no shipping and handling. And they were a product that ended up going pretty viral on TikTok. So the thing is, like, if a bunch of people buy this product from me that costs like $2 or $3, then we're all benefiting. They're getting a product that they need and maybe some new tips or exposure on how to create content. They're getting a tool to potentially make money, and I'm making money. I'm making commission off of every sale. So TikTok Shop is kind of like a surefire way to make money. There is more chicken, so please come back for seconds. Eat your fill.
I can see that there's beans.
Oh no, these are tomatoes. I thought you might like them.
Tomatoes?
They're juicy, cold, fresh, and delicious. You don't want tomatoes? You want anything to try them? Okay. I'm glad I asked. Also, making money on TikTok Shop is really fun because you find so many cool items. You connect with so many cool people. When I'm in my bag a little differently, one of the first things that you're going to see me getting is one of the viral vibrational plates, because for every reason. Number one, I think it's such a good health tool. As a mom, stuck lymph fluid has been something that I have been working with for a while. TikTok, I'm not doing paid marketing. I was just talking about a book that I like. I hope you know that. What am I gonna put my meat in? I'll put it in the cake pan. That just kind of annoyed me. I need a moment. For real. For real, for real. Anyway. Yeah. Stuck lymph fluid is something that I've dealt with for a while. Once I reached my like second trimester of pregnancy, I had major issues with like swollen ankles that continued for long after I gave birth. And I was like struggling with that, you know. I was like, hold on, oh my gosh, is this something that I'm going to deal with forever? And the viral vibrational plates literally move all that lymphatic fluid throughout your body. So for people like me who are dealing with that particular issue, I think that's like a top-notch tool to help in your like healing journey postpartum, but could be at any stage of your life, really. So like I would have never known that a vibrational plate existed if not for TikTok Shop, you know. So it's just like another reason why I think it's a really cool thing to invest in, and a potentially very lucrative side hustle, because if done correctly, I watch my fellow content creators like become millionaires because they put in the work, they study the algorithm, they study their hooks, they get products that are viral, that relate to them, that they can use, that relate to their niche and their content, you know, audience, and they're gonna go viral every time. like 300,000 views per video, 2 million views per video. It's not out of range for you. It's not too much for you. You just have to like be focused, be disciplined, and pretty much be consistent, you know? And TikTok notices that. And TikTok rewards that. Because the more consistent you are, basically the more TikTok is gonna push your videos out to bigger and bigger audiences. And one of the best ways to do that is to really just go live. Because that shows the algorithm that you're serious, and it's the best way to connect with your people and to make money now that TikTok has scaled rewards. Because now you can get rewards just for going live, not even just because of people like sending gifts, which was brilliant and very cool addition to this app, I must say. Another way that might seem pretty obvious to make money on TikTok is by brand deals. And you'll find like that a lot of people work with like a lot of outside apps to like find brand deals and reach out to them and not be afraid to do that legwork and to say like, hi, I'm a content creator. This is an example of some of my work. I'm a UGC creator. You know, I would love to work with you. Would you like me to be one of your reps or whatever? Who's your PR team, whatever. Yeah. But TikTok's creator program, I've seen a lot of people say a lot of things about it. And one thing is for certain, you do not have to have 10,000 followers to make money on TikTok, and you do not have to be in the creator program to make money on TikTok. You know, as long as you have the ability to create videos and go live, you can be making money on this app. Because as long as you're going live and connecting with people, you're building your audience, and that's helping you make money, and that's helping you build trust with your audience, because then people know what to expect from you and where to come back for whatever type of content that they're looking for. Anyways, even though I just dropped it, my food is ready. So that's all for now. I'll be back later. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this live, or if you're watching the re-upload. It is my distinct pleasure to be able to create content with you. I'll see you soon. Bye.